And I chose YouTube because Facebook is changing their policies where they're not going to keep videos for more than 30 days. And I don't feel like moving a video from Facebook to YouTube. So be patient with me while I go through this. It's the middle of the night, and I'm sitting here having a cigarette, and I don't even have a glass of water. But it's been one of those days. Um, for those of you who've been following along with the Brian Corn tassel issue, I'm going to put to bed once and for all his bull squat of saying that Stacy Kendall's horses are stolen. Now, anybody with half a brain knows you can do a public records request for animal control records, which is what you are looking at on my computer. I did so. Um, the situation came that Stacy was refusing to get helpers. She was not paying for enough water. The horses had no shelter, and I needed a second surgery on my wrist. And I couldn't get the surgery as long as I was pretty much the sole caretaker for the horses. So when I finally had enough, I contacted a friend. She contacted her friend who was an animal control officer. The animal control officer reached out to me. I told them everything, and it went from there. Okay. So this is the second animal control officer. I have all 4 files. I only have one of the files open. But it is easy enough for me to scroll down here. All the ones that start with the letter A are the ones concerning the horses being removed. Okay. So we can open one. That's also a Horton. There should be one from Galvin too. Hold on. There it is. Okay, Galvin was actually the first one I talked to. All right. So when I talked to her, she explained to me that if the horses were not removed, they would be back to write a citation. That citation would be in my name and Stacy's. No, they're not my horses. Okay, I was not being paid to take care of the horses. I was not. Okay, and Stacy, I have months upon months of documentation of me requesting her to move the horses, get a helper, whatnot. So that's what brought all this about. Let me put my cigarette out. And Brian doesn't like my smoking. I don't care. I really don't. I don't do it to make him happy. Anyway, so Galvin was the first one that I contacted. Okay, so if you notice, let me get my mouse cooperating here. Come on, mouse. I think my mouse died. Nope, there it comes. If you notice, right here, this line right here, the horses are to be removed from the property. That's not from us. That's from animal control. Okay? Now, this long paragraph is basically about what was going on, explaining the animal control situation and their history with her. She checked them. Yes, they both had food and water because I was the one taking care of them. Okay. But if you notice right here, it states that if the horses were not moved and did not have shelter, which they did not, that they would be back to write a citation, a violation. Now, I am willing to accept a violation on my own animals if one is warranted. Okay? If I do something wrong, I'm big enough to admit that I've done it wrong. But I bought the tools, there were materials. I am physically not able to build a shelter because I have been dealing with this, two surgeries, and since September of 2023. Okay. So I provided the tools, I was providing the materials. All Stacy had to do was build a shelter for those horses, and she wouldn't. Okay, so it was at that point I'm like, no, if you're not going to do right by them, they need to go. You need to move them. And at that time, Kim had started asking her for, I think it was $100 a month to board her horses up there. She wouldn't even return his call. So he was saying they got to get off his property. All right. So you look through this, okay? And this was coordinated with animal control. All right. And yes, I know my phone number is probably in there somewhere. I don't care at this point. So, they also had a report. Now, this is something Stacy never talks about. But if you look at, hold on, I'm going to highlight this line right here. Why did it stop there? Okay, so another party, that would be Brian, called in to do a welfare check on the cats. Stacy left 4 cats. Now, mind you, Stacy's homeless, living in her vehicle. So the horses were moved to Apple Valley, to the D6 ranch for quarantine. And if you keep reading and reading and reading, they were vet checked and all of this. All right, so they go out, animal control makes contact, goes out to see Diva and Loki at the D6 ranch. Okay, and it was at this point that Diva will be going back to the rescue she came from because Stacy had violated her contract over Diva. And Loki was going to be moved because, hang on, I'm skipping ahead of myself. All right, so, but if you look at all through this, Stacy knew where the horses were. Stacy was in contact with the animal control officers. Stacy knew how to retrieve her 2 horses. At no point did Stacy ever make an effort to. Okay, so Brian contacted Galvin as a mediator for Stacy, trying to claim they didn't know where the horses were. Okay, and Galvin explained to Brian that she didn't know him, but yes, Stacy did know where her horses were, and that she was able to go and pick them up. Okay, so the animal control followed up. Now, mind you, the horses were moved on June 24th. Okay, June 24th. So Stacy could have went and gotten them at any time. So on August 11th, Loki had to be moved because the person who was housing them was being threatened by Stacy and Brian. Okay, but when they were moved, animal control was notified, obviously because it's in the report, and Stacy was notified as to where she could go pick up her horse. It then became an abandonment issue. Stacy chose not to go get her horses. But as you can see, animal control was called in. The horses had no shelter. Now, for those of you who don't live in California, summer in the high desert is very unforgiving, and it was 114 degrees. The horses did not have shade, okay? So that was very important. So, getting those horses to where they had shade and somebody more physically able to take care of them was very important. And it was important in the eyes of animal control, too. Now, after he made the complaint about doing a welfare check on the cats, they were happy with the cats, obviously, because the cats are still here with me. And they are doing quite well. As a matter of fact, I I'm not sure if I've moved the videos over yet or not, but I've got videos on Facebook of them, and there'll be more videos because I've got to move all the Facebook videos to YouTube. Oh my God. Anyway, so I don't know who's watching, but we are dispelling Brian Corntassel's. Yeah, probably Brian. Brian Corntassel's lie about Stacy Kendall, aka Nichols' horses being stolen. Okay. So, yeah, that's what this video is about. Is going over the initial report with Officer Galvin, who was the first one to come out. She did the examination and said they had to be moved and gave us 24 hours to do so. Okay. So, the horses were moved on June 24th of 2024, and at every single step of the way, Stacy was involved. She was notified where they were going, who to contact, how to pick them up, everything. Stacy made the choice not to go get them. And between Stacy and Brian, they're perpetuating this online story about the horses being stolen just to get sympathy and, I don't know, attention. I don't know. But I'm tired. I'm awake when I shouldn't be. Gotta love insomnia sometimes. But I was sitting here and, you know, Loki was seen by Dr. Clark on July 10th. Okay, so then after July 10th, the vet recommended a dental. That was taken care of. Once again, veterinary care for Stacy's horses was paid for by somebody else. Okay, so on August 11th, Loki was moved because Brian and Stacy were threatening Amanda. But Diva, that's where it gets a little tricky. Diva, Stacy got her from a rescue, and her name was Dior, Dior, out of Lancaster. It's got obviously retracted, okay? So she got Dior from this horse rescue out of Lancaster. So Diva went back to the rescue because where does it say it at? Had all the paperwork to show that the horse originally belonged to them, and Loki would be moved on Friday as long as Stacy didn't come and pick him up. She does keep threatening to come and get him, saying that she spoke to Galvin and other law enforcement and animal control and that the horses were stolen. Stacy is known as blank and still unaware, and animal control mentions still unaware where the other two horses went. Pictures of the horses are in the file. So they are still actively looking for the other two horses. All right. This is not a story that I'm telling. This is in the animal control reports. And the only reason I'm even addressing this is because I have insomnia. And because Sunday, Brian started on his bullshit about the horses being stolen. And he had tried to file a civil harassment restraining order against me, and I was so looking forward to arguing my side of the case. But the vast majority of the civil harassment restraining order he tried to file was about the horses being stolen. Now, mind you, that was supposedly back in June. Obviously, nothing current. February 18th, we went to court for that, and Judge Baxter denied him. Made him look like a fool, really, in court. But yeah. So that is Galvin's report. And this is Horton's. Horton came out on Saturday, or I'm sorry, Galvin came out on Saturday, and Horton came out on Sunday. So, two different animal control officers. Okay. This is one where he was, oh my God. That's the Horton report. But, yeah. So, there's that. My chickens are crazy. So, to dispel the stolen horses rumor, this is an official San Bernardino County animal control record. Deputy Horton. Same thing we just went over. And this one is the animal control record from Deputy Galvin. Obviously, the horses were not stolen. Okay? And the idea that Brian's going around telling people horse thieves ought to be hanged, you know, he's only calling for violence, and he's the one who's purportedly afraid of me. Okay? Seriously. But yes, they did a welfare check on the cats, and that was actually preempted because that was on the 24th. And if you go back up here to the 22nd, okay, let's see, where was it? On the 22nd, Evelyn also mentioned that she left 4 cats in the house as well. She took me in the house to see that they have food, water, and the whole house as shelter. And that I would probably be moving the cats back down to a camper on my place. So I wouldn't have to be driving up there all the time. Okay? So on the 22nd, when Galvin came to check on the horses, they also checked on the cats. And yet on the 24th, says called for a welfare check on the cats. So they're the ones with the problem, not me. He needs to get a life. Seriously. All right. I am going to figure out how to... You know, I know how to start a live video on YouTube. I'm not sure I know how to end one. All right, so let's assume that's what the little X up here is for. Stop streaming, yes.